Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new podcast here. I forgot the name of the podcast.
Oh, what were you thinking?
Wah wah wah. Was that planned? You'll never know. I am Brendan.
And I am Nathan.
And we are here to talk about terrible films. Every 2 weeks we'll bring you a new terrible film. But today is the classic 1970s television movie, Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
Only television if you were in North America. This thing actually got theatrical release internationally.
This thing played in theaters?
This thing played in theater. People paid theater money to see this.
Let's not even forget the fact that someone sat down, wrote this script, and said, yeah, this'll be good.
Well, apparently they tried to sit down and write this script, but some of the members of KISS were not exactly the most forthcoming. I know Ace Frehley, yeah, because it was Space Ace, that he says ack a lot in this movie, and that's because when the screenwriters kind of hung out with KISS to get a sense of how they talk so they could make the dialogue seem more natural and real, he just said ack a lot. So the first draft of this movie, to say that there were other drafts, if you can believe that, mostly consisted of just no lines for him and the occasional ack, which they used almost like as an ADR thing, because it's not even his voice saying it. It's almost like a computer generated song.
Now, you said I find your story hard to believe because you said that the script had several drafts.
Yeah.
I just assumed they went from rough outline to shooting.
Yeah, no, just make it up as you go along, boys, or ad-lib it from here.
We'll ADR in whatever we need later. And yep. I just want to say...
And they did.
The first thing is that there is so much ADR.
I couldn't get over it. Like, it was not even just the whole thing where Handy Smurf is the voice of Peter Criss for, like, everything in this movie.
Did you say Handy Smurf?
Yeah. The guy, Peter Criss, when they did this movie, they shot it, and then when they were doing the looping and the ADR afterwards, there's stories that he didn't participate or didn't want to participate. He says otherwise now, but of course he would. And so anyways, they got a famous voice actor, I think his name is Michael Bell. He did a lot of cartoons in the 80s, and he was like the voice of Lance on Voltron, and also the voice of Handy Smurf.
When you said Handy Smurf, I imagined it to be the Smurf that walks around giving other Smurfs handjobs.
That is not, but, yeah, it's the Smurf. How can you say stuff like that?
It's the Smurf that's good with his hands, is what you're saying.
Yes, he's like the fix-it guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty close to what I said.
I guess, yeah, sure.
You haven't seen the Smurfs 2. You don't know what that's all about.
Oh, see, yeah, I'm not talking about, the movies. I'm talking about the cartoon from back in the 80s, yeah.
I haven't seen the Smurfs 2 either. I'm sure there's no Smurf that walks around giving other Smurfs handjobs.
Well, they did shoot a good majority of it in New York, so...
Oh, that's true. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
So as we start this movie, it starts with this Kiss song, Rock and Roll All Night.
It's like one of the most famous songs.
Right, so, okay, fine. But then there's like a giant pog on the screen.
Yeah.
And Kiss is playing in front of a green screen of an amusement park, but they're ghosts, I think?
Well, I think it's supposed to be a green screen effect, but because it was so... I don't know, it wasn't such a high-quality production that they get, like, sort of transparency effect. There are times when, like, Kiss is, like, Gene's as tall as a roller coaster. He's looking down, and people are looking up at him, so we're like, are you to believe that he's, like, really that tall? Because there's girls who walk by in the roller coaster, and they look up, and they're like, oh, look at him, he's playing bass and sticking his tongue out.
Yeah, no, but reacting far less than they should to a giant Gene Simmons.
In full demon makeup, and luckily he wasn't using his superpowers, which, we'll get into that a little later, but I mean,
God.
oh, that was, I watched this movie with my wife and my daughter, and both varying opinions on that thing. Yeah.
Okay, so right off the bat, they're like, okay, we better start this with Kiss.
Yeah,
Singing, like,
because
they're...
they don't get into the friggin' movie almost a half an hour after the opening credits.
I was gonna... 30 minutes of no Kiss in a movie called Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of theme park padding in this movie. Did you find that?
Oh my god.
Like,
all over the place.
All these shots of, like, the parade that would be at the show, or like the roller coaster, or another ride or something like that.
The roller coaster is at least a minute long of these kids that we don't... None of the characters... I don't think any of the main characters are in the roller coaster. And
No,
it's just a shot for about 30 seconds of...
For about that, but then you do see Sam and Melissa, who are supposed to be, I guess they're the protagonists, because they are the driving force behind the story. Because if it wasn't for them, Kiss wouldn't go on their wacky madcap adventure.
Right, because if I want to watch a movie called Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, I want to follow Sam and Melissa.
Yeah. Well, another thing too, I was watching the movie, and the musical cues outside of, like, when Kiss are playing don't really match what you would expect, like, a Kiss movie to have.
Right.
There's a lot of a very, and because it's because it is Hanna-Barbera, there's a lot of Scooby-Doo or Yogi Bear type musical cues in it. I almost half expected at some point when they were trying to, find stuff to hear, do 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 do, or a Monkees song while they ran across the hallway in through 6 or 7 doors and coming out different doors each time.
I'm honestly... Can we talk about that for a second? Hanna-Barbera made this movie, guys.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The people behind Yogi Bear and
Scooby-Doo,
lots of the really popular cartoons of the 70s.
the Flintstones,
huge, made this movie, this live-action movie about Kiss.
If you watch it, you think it feels like a Scooby-Doo episode, but
on
with
crystal
Kiss.
meth.
On crystal meth with Kiss, taking the place of the Mystery Machine Gang. And it seems to me like if they had done this as a cartoon, it maybe would not have seemed so bad. Like, it might have got like if it was a cartoon instead of a movie, they'd done it for like a season or something like that, where the Kiss Gang do have their wacky adventures, and then they play one of Kiss's songs at the end, where they have a cartoon versions of Kiss play the song, and everybody's having a good time. It would have just kind of melted away as another afterthought, another thing that Kiss has. But no, they made a live action movie. Got sponsors, put it on, like, it was on NBC, and it was a movie of the week, and it was so bad, like, just so terrible. No, you'd think that the amount of people who went into making this thing, and they looked at the final cut and were like, well, that's as good as it gets, I guess. Let's put it on NBC.
Okay, and can we also say that the announcer at the beginning, you hear a voice at the beginning that's like, Kiss tonight,
Kiss
3
tonight.
great nights, remember, Kiss tonight. He sounds a little desperate.
Yeah, and you know what? I wasn't sure, but I'm pretty sure Kiss was tonight, because they only said it like 50 times in the first 20 minutes, I think.
Or how about when the owner looks up at the sky and says, God, I paid a lot of money for that. And it's like,
It's a plane flying by.
Kiss tonight.
Yeah, Kiss tonight.
That's it.
Yeah.
No no details.
Oh, and to pad out the film in that first, for that first half an hour, I guess they're setting up exposition and stuff like that for what you're supposed to know about the villain and everything, because the villain's, he's a guy who he works for the park, he runs their animatronics or whatever, which the whole robot thing, I got all kinds of questions about that a little later on, but you meet him, and then you meet the guy who owns the park, played by Carmine Cardi, I think the guy's name is. I think that's what I got hit in my pen scratch here. He was originally, he was almost Sonny Corleone and Paulie in the Rocky movies.
Oh my lord.
He's been in Godfather movies. He's been in Oscar-winning movies, and also in this.
Why do they have an unstable scientist running their animatronics?
I don't know. He goes from kind of myth to absolutely insane in no time flat.
None.
He just flips a switch, and he starts, I guess, turning people into robots. Is that what's going on?
I don't honestly know.
Well, we'll backtrack. Sam and Melissa, the two people who are, like I said, the kind of the driving force behind the story. Sam works at the park, and he works for the mad scientist, animatronics guy. And he's almost like a janitor for him, but he's at one point he's looking around at where he's supposed to be working, and a door opens, and he gets sucked in, screams, the door closes, and then it opens again.
Solid special effects.
He had to open the door, so it went up, and then he walked in and was like, oh, what's going on in here? And then, you get the scream, and then the door closes.
Now, did he get sucked into the tube at this point, or is that...
No, that's the bikers.
Right.
That happens to the bikers, and it's so clearly shot in reverse. It's not even... It's just such a cheesy effect. And you think they're supposed to be being sucked down, but it looks like they're being sucked up, and either way, it looks dreadful.
Can we talk about when... Okay, two quick things early on. I know we're only 10 minutes into this movie, but early on in the movie, when I believe it's Sam, he's talking to Melissa, the ADR is so obvious that anytime he talks, there are parade floats in front of him, so you can't see his mouth moving.
Yeah.
And then also, something just before that is, I don't know what happened, but there's two women walking, and they clearly are not actors, because they're walking in the most unnatural way I've ever seen people walk. I don't know if you noticed that.
I didn't notice that one, no.
It's right after the opening. They just walk by the park, and they're moving their arms in a way that I would imagine the director would be like, okay, just, walk like you're going to walk. And they're like, well, what do I do with my arms?
This is my busy walk. It's the peas and carrots of extra walk. That they look like they're
Not to mention all the product placement early on, too.
Oh, there was a lot. And, it was, I guess they shot the concert stuff over a couple of days at, Six Flags Magic Mountain out in California, where it was shot. They actually did, the concerts and stuff there. And so they were doing a lot of the stuff that they shot at the park was also in conjunction with that. So some of the extras that you see in the movie aren't, extras. They're just folks who were at the park for all the KISS celebration. The KISS Army, if you will, turned out to help out KISS make this movie, and probably had to pay to get into the park and didn't get a dime for any sort of compensation either.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
What? Okay. Another thing is, this girl Melissa. I think this is her introduction, but how she's introduced is we hear the song Christine, talking about a girl who's 16. She's clearly 30 years old.
Oh yeah, no, she's definitely in that area, almost as old as at least a Charlie's Angel.
Yeah,
Are
they supposed to be teenagers?
I don't know if they're supposed to be teenagers or, young 20-somethings, but they're, like you said, she's clearly 30 if she's a day.
Yeah.
And as far as Sam goes, I might give him mid to late 20s at best. But
guessing...
you don't see him a whole lot, plus he's really pale too because, he kind of gets turned into one of the weird, robot people or something.
In a way in which... Oh, okay, yeah, we'll get to that later about the robot thing, because I there's something about that really bothers me. But, yeah, what was the other thing? Oh, there's just, like, really weird random things. Why is there a gorilla?
Well, that's the thing. There's the gorilla, the Spaceland people, and the Kabuki people. They're all supposed to be animatronic robots to help promote other portions of the park. And they're so clearly just people in suits that they didn't even really do much of anything to make them look like robots. They just do herky-jerky movements, which actually one of the bikers actually calls that when they're talking about the chimp or the gorilla. When they're also, I don't know what it was with the bikers, but at first one of the bikers, I can't remember if it was Chopper or Slime, is messing with the gorilla. And he's gonna fight the gorilla, and he's gonna punch it, and then he's gonna kiss it for a second, and then his contemporary, so if it was Chopper who was fighting, let's say it was Slime who was doing the antagonizing, Slime starts antagonizing Chopper's, if I could use the parlance, old lady, and it says, "Hey, I think Mighty Joe Young here's got eyes for your old man," and she's like, "Yeah, but just remember who you came with." Like he's gonna make out or leave with the robot gorilla.
Are we to believe that these bikers think the gorilla is real?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think so, because when the animatronic scientist guy shows up, Abner. I think we should use his name Abner, because that's a really good name to use.
Yeah,
Abner, because it's a nerdy name. That's why he got it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Abner shows up, and he's basically chastising them for messing around with the gorilla, because they're up on the display. Which really a theme park that size, somebody starts getting up and messing with an supposedly expensive robot that's used to promote part of the park. They would have been on their asses in no time flat. But they're allowed to punch the gorilla and hang off it and stuff like that. Abner shows up, tells them to stop, and the guy's like, "Why, old man? What are you gonna do, old man?" They're really putting the emphasis, they said these guys are young when they are at least pushing 40.
He says "old man" about 5 times.
Yeah. And so Abner explains to them that it took thousands of dollars and tons of man-hours to perfect Samson. I think Samson was the name of the gorilla. Samson. And the guy's like, "You call this perfect? Some stupid gorilla, some robot in a gorilla suit doing the herka-jerka?" So yeah, that was, and so it's a robot. That's used to, and they know it's a robot because he explains to them that it's a robot, and then, he says, "Oh, I can give you some free passes to his it was a Tunnel of Terror ride or something like that."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Real Squaresville, absolute lame." There's so much slang in here that was not slang.
My favorite line of that part is when he says, "I mean heart attack time, really lame."
Yeah, exactly. Nobody ever talked like that. Even in the worst. It's like when you watch those. If you've ever seen any of those old educational videos, you can get them on the archive.org and stuff like that. And they're made by people in the government or health organizations and stuff like that, who are all well past the age of slang in the 60s. they write the scripts and throw in what they think is slang because they've overheard their niece or their kids talk, and they're like, oh, well, that must mean that, and my goodness, they sure talk strange, and let's slap it all together and make it sound like something, and it sounds absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
That being said, after they slap together this, like, real heart attacks, lame, man, they wouldn't do that. Like, they're basically saying, we wouldn't go on your stupid ride in a million years. They then proceed to go on the Tunnel of Terror or whatever the heck it was.
Like, immediately.
Yeah, and he's watching from his swiveling console.
Yes, I love the swiveling console.
Like, they make a big deal at the first of the movie about how, like, they're trying to avoid, like, financial dire straits for this park. And they've got, like, one of the most, like, NASA technologically advanced control rooms for the Professor, Abner, and his robot building.
Why are they, if they are in such financial problems, why do they have an animatronics guy?
I know. And he made a big deal that the robots themselves cost tens of thousands of dollars to make. And if, like you said, if they're in such financial hard, and that's another thing too, that it was a really busy park.
Yes.
For them to be like, oh, I'm worried about money. They're like, they could barely shoot the scenes. They were bumping into people as they're walking.
And then you get all those great zooms as well on the camera.
During one of the concerts, they just kept zooming in and out on the word "kiss."
Yeah, in case you didn't get it.
Yeah, and the band wasn't in the shot or anything like that. It was just like someone was put the camera on a yo-yo and threw it back and forth at this kiss sign. A lot of stuff like that in the movie too. I guess, I don't know, to make it seem more exciting than it was.
Oh, and by the way, guys, if you're wondering why we barely talked about Kiss so far, it's because they're not in the damn movie yet.
No, you said a half an hour before they got.
Half an hour. We still have not seen Kiss.
Yeah, we get to see the kind of inner workings of Abner's Build-A-Bear workshop before anything else, so you get an idea of what he's capable of.
His barbershop quartet?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, talk about the barbershop quartet.
That is the most terrifying thing I have ever seen.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, it's obviously it's just four actors made to look like robots, I guess.
And I don't know how they achieved the dead behind the eyes quality with the actors, but they were some of the best actors in the movie.
Best performances are from the barbershop quartet.
Because they looked like soulless robots.
Yeah. The worst is the robot we see before that who literally does the robot. That is his example of how he's a robot.
Yeah.
Also, his Abner's security cameras are awfully good quality, I have to say.
I know.
Like, he really sprung for top of the line. Full-on
audio, and everything. For 1978, like, man, he had HD and was keeping it from everybody.
I just wrote in my notes, please kill off the greasers 3 times in a row.
Oh. Which you then got your wish because when they went on the Chamber of Terror ride or whatever it was, which is, it just was like, it seemed like a pretty average haunted house to me.
It almost fetish-like?
Yeah, there's a lot of S&M going on in that Dungeon of Terror and stuff like that. And did you notice, and I took particular double takes on this, the Frankenstein monster looked like Andy Richter.
I did not notice that.
They show him 3 or 4 times throughout the whole thing when the greasers or the motorbike toughs or whatever are being pursued or scared into being captured. They show him a couple of times, and every time I look at him, I'm waiting for him to start a bit with Conan or something, because he looked like Andy Richter drawn up as a Frankenstein monster.
That's Conan could have been Dracula, I guess.
Maybe. And did they fire the lighting guy at that point? Because that was like, it was like so hard to watch that dungeon scene. Like you could barely see anybody in that thing. At least in the copy that I had.
Except for the child whose balloon they pop with a cigarette.
Yeah.
Scram, kid! They're just like... I know this movie was not made with an Oscar contention in mind, but, I mean, they have some of the worst dialogue I have ever heard in a movie.
Oh, we jumped ahead, too, when Sam got turned into a robot.
Oh, right.
Because this actually led to a question that I had. Go ahead with your thing with Sam, though, because I'll get my question in.
I was just going to say, I kind of lost here. I didn't even, like, catch the moment where he got turned into a robot.
Well, I think it was when he got sucked into the door, but then they show Abner talking to him, and then they just kind of pull down his collar, and you see the little circuit thing, which is to say, oh, he's now under Abner's control, so he's a robot.
Right.
And that led a whole bunch of questions for me for the whole Dungeon of Terror thing, because could that have been Andy Richter as the Frankenstein monster? Because could they be real people that are in there? Because, and to that effect, was the person in the robot in the guillotine like somebody? Has he been turning a lot of people into robots?
So you think like all his robots are basically people before?
Yeah.
This is a very similar thing I thought about after I saw the film 9 Lives. Because Christopher Walken has an entire cat shop, and Kevin Spacey can only hear the other cats talk once he's become a cat.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure he has an entire cat shop full of cats that used to be people. So this is a very similar theme. And, yeah... I don't know, but don't those greasers, when they get sucked through the tube, do you ever see them again?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
There's a scene later when they've been turned into kind of like people bots, like Sam was.
Okay.
But instead of just being like henchmen still in their regular gear that they were wearing, they're dressed up as like like Civil War or Colonial War reenacting people.
Right, because of course.
and Abner actually notes that he says something along the lines of, "I'll make upstanding American citizens of you yet," because they were uncouth ne'er-do-wells before.
What is his goal?
I'm not sure. Is it somehow by changing everyone into robots, is he going to make the robot displays the most impressive things so that everybody's going to come from far and wide to see like these super lifelike robots? But it's almost like the Underpants Gnomes from South Park, where like he's got one idea, he doesn't know what the middle part is, but the end is profit.
I'm pretty sure at some point he just says, I'm just gonna destroy the park.
That's a possibility, because when he clones Kiss. You want to get into that, or do you want to lead up?
We'll get to that soon.
Okay. I'll hold off on that then.
But yeah,
I did have an interesting note. The guy Calvin Richards, the guy who owns the park. I had said before, Carmine Cardi, who'd been in like the Godfather movies and stuff like that, and has been in like Oscar caliber movies, and is in this. He's the only person in the history of the Academy of Motion Pictures to be expelled.
Expelled from the Academy?
He was expelled from the Academy because some of I guess there was a big piracy thing that happened a few years back at the beginning of the early 2000s, that some of his copies of screeners that had been sent around for voting purposes leaked out onto the internet. And what had happened was he would get the screeners and he would watch them and he would send them to this person who was a fan of his in the Midwest. And he was just doing it thinking, okay, well, the guy's just a big fan of cinema. I'll send him my copies of my screeners after I've seen them. And then the guy, I guess, leaked a bunch of them on the internet. They that they found out it was him because of the watermark or something that was on the screener and everything like that. He got kicked out of the Academy of Motion Pictures.
Well, I mean, at least he still has this movie to look fondly upon.
Oh, I know, right? That's what it's going to say on his grave. Father, husband, star of Kiss Me Family Apart.
Oh man. Okay, so at this point, yes, he's a robot. The gang.
Sorry to interrupt. Slime, the guy, one of the greasers, always with the puns.
Yes.
He had tons of them, and I felt that they missed a huge opportunity because when he was in the dungeon, he was captured by an animatronic mummy, and they didn't take the opportunity when he got grabbed for him to say something along the lines of "I want my mommy" or just "mother" or something like that. I was like, you know what? They've gone whole hog for the cheese, and for the first half hour, why hold back there?
I feel like that was the moment the director said, "All right, guys, that's too much. Cut it back a bit. I do want to attempt to win an Emmy this year."
I mean, the girl, she gets captured, and she gets captured by an Iron Maiden. So not only was Kiss in this movie, so was Iron Maiden.
Oh, good lord. Also, I don't want to skip ahead too far, but I just want to mention, is there a band named Armageddon?
I wish there was, and I hope there is, because just because of that line, I know that line you're talking about.
There's a really seemingly cheap shot where they say something like, "This is Armageddon, man." No, that's just a really bad band, or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, it's like, yeah, we play our own shows. We don't open for anybody. Plus, Armageddon's a real lame group.
Yeah. I hope it's a band somewhere, some like shitty local band that Gene Simmons was like, "Let's bury them."
They're never coming back from this. They were shamed on the NBC Movie of the Week.
All 75 people that saw this movie.
Oh, I feel bad for some of the people, because when we decided we were going to do this, and I started going through like a lot of the stuff on the internet about it, just to get some of the factoids. There are members of the Kiss Army, the fans, who own copies of this movie just out of sheer completionist's sake. They have nothing but bad things to say about the movie, just absolute vitriol and hatred for it, but will own it because Kiss is in it.
Yeah, it's you got to be a real fan. I'm telling you right now.
That's what a lot of the reviews and stuff say on IMDb and Amazon and stuff like that. They're like, for fans only. If you're expecting a good movie, look elsewhere.
And even at that, it's still a gamble.
Yeah, because there are fans who are like, "I'm a huge fan of Kiss. I've been a big fan for a long time. This movie was awful."
Okay, so at this point, is this where Kiss shows up?
Kiss does show up.
Okay, here we go.
Because this is like, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the introduction to Kiss, because this introduction is insane.
Oh, they come flying into the stage with their superpowers.
Right.
Like there's all this cheesy after effect, and it's got like sound effect, and they're sliding down like lasers, and Gene Simmons is the demon, is like he's like flying in and stuff like that. And so they're using, because Kiss has superpowers.
Right. Well, that goes without saying.
Yeah. And they use their magic powers or their superpowers to get on stage and finally start the concert that they're being promoted for. And they lead off the concert with "Shout It Out," which is one of their songs, one of their hits. But I was noticing when I was watching it, with the makeup that they wear, and like the as tough as they're supposed to seem, the music a lot of the times that they play doesn't match up with the ferocity of their makeup and their wardrobe and stuff like that. Especially Gene, who's supposed to look like this psychotic demon, and they're like, "Shout it, shout it, shout it out loud."
Well, I mean, it couldn't be any less live, that's for sure.
And that's the thing. Well, the music that they play isn't. They had like 3 days worth of concerts that they used to get the footage from.
They couldn't get any usable sound from that? Like,
I guess not. They actually shot concerts. There was actually concerts they did for this movie, so they could get like live crowds. They could just pack the place full because there were free concerts with Kiss at like some of the peak of their popularity. And like the people who are in the crowd, they're not extras. They're people who came to see a Kiss concert, and they actually got to see a Kiss concert, and they use all the crowd shots. But then yeah, the music they use is all canned.
yeah, and like, folks, let's just stress this again. This is Kiss at the height of their popularity. This is not like an obscure, a band that's fallen into obscurity doing one last grab at fame. No, they were like huge at the time.
Yeah, this is before the makeup came off, before they split up for the first time. Still like gigantically popular, and this was just supposed to kind of push them forward. I'm guessing that if this had been successful or something like that, you might have seen sequels or possibly, like I said, a Saturday morning cartoon show like Scooby-Doo with them.
I think it would have been perfect for a cartoon, like you said earlier.
Yeah. It may not have lasted for like 1,000 seasons, but it would definitely have been something. Hey, remember that wacky Kiss cartoon? And people would look back with fondness.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh yeah, I watched that the whole, the year that it was on, or the 2 years that it was on. That was great. You know, and fans could actually have, remember when Kiss was a cartoon? That was so cool. And now they're just like, remember that time Kiss was in the movie? And
it sucked and no one saw it.
Awful. It was so bad. But they did a Scooby-Doo movie with Kiss a few years back, and it's supposed to be like a loose remake of this.
Oh, good lord!
I haven't seen it, but I know it's super loose with the adaptation and stuff like that. I think Kiss still has like magic powers and stuff like that.
Wouldn't it be great if it was Scooby-Doo and Kiss, but it was a shot-for-shot remake of this movie?
Oh my god! I would enjoy that. Instead of looking for Sam and Melissa, Fred and Daphne.
We changed to nothing. Oh, and so this is their concert, which you said they come in as superheroes. Mm-hmm. This is also the first time we see Gene Simmons breathing fire and roaring like a lion.
The MGM lion, which I'm almost positive it is.
Yeah, and like, he's not, sorry, I shouldn't say he's roaring like a lion. He opens his mouth and there is an actual lion's roar that comes out.
Yeah.
And they also, this is their big concert that we've been talking about for 30 minutes. They play 2 songs.
Yeah, and then they cut to what would have clearly been a commercial. And the commercial breaks in this movie, like where their commercials were supposed to be, are super jarring. Like, I can't think of a single time where it was just like a smooth transition, where it would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, they probably could have put a commercial there.
I wonder if they thought it was going to be like going into theaters when they first made it.
I don't think so. I think originally they knew it was going to be made for TV because it was done by Hanna-Barbera.
So perhaps the director was like, oh man, we're wrapped, we gotta go. Oh shit, we forgot to put commercial breaks in.
Yeah, and it's really obvious too, because you watch it, and there were several times when I was watching it when they would do it, and I'd be like, this Monday on BJ and the Bear, or something like, I'd be waiting for the commercial break to come in and try to sell me some 1970s cleaner, what was happening on Columbo next week on the NBC Mystery Movie, and then, news at 11, now back to Kiss Me, Savannah's Heart.
Oh, this is so bad. Okay, so the concert is over, and Sam the robot is taking photos of their faces.
Wait, just 1 second before we get into this. Kiss does come out, they start mugging and stuff like that for the crowd and everything. I didn't see Sam with the photo, with the camera at first, and Abner has been talking about, getting rid of Kiss and how the bane of his existence and stuff like that. Just utters the line, Sam, start shooting now.
Oh, yes! That's right!
I was waiting for him to, open fire on Kiss.
I forgot forgot about that. I thought he was going to just fire shots off into the crowd.
But no, he does. He takes out a camera and he starts taking pictures of Kiss so that the animatronics Dr. Abner can copy them.
Can you imagine if he had just shot and killed Kiss in that scene?
You know what? If Quentin Tarantino ever directs a remake, I'm sure there will be an open firing on the crowd.
John Travolta will play Gene Simmons. Sam Jackson's got
to be that. Sam Jackson
will be Ace Frehley.
he would be Peter Criss.
Oh, that's right, because he was the one who had the African American stunt double. Is that right?
Yeah, and then during the fight scene, they did like 3 or 4 close-up shots on him, and you're like, "That's a black guy."
He's gonna be wearing white face paint and black, and no one will ever know.
But here's the thing: he is the only member of Kiss in this movie who doesn't have like a full torso covering costume. Everybody else in the band has like full-on sleeved shirts or jackets or whatever. You can't see their arms, you can't see their hands, you can't see their face because of the face paint. They got all the hair and stuff like that. You can't really tell. There's nothing. They're all wearing pants and their big friggin' boots and stuff like that. Peter Criss is the only one who's wearing a sleeveless vest with his chest hair exposed.
Oh, that's right.
Because he's the drummer, right? So I mean, the drummers a lot of drummers will wear like less amount of clothes so they can move more freely and stuff like that.
Show their chest hair.
Yeah, well, it was the '70s, right? You know, chest hair. That's what gave you the tail. You know, chest hair. And so his stunt double was, like you said, an African American chap, and there's a fight scene, and I've got notes on it. We can talk about it later, but he's a black dude, and you know it, and you can tell because they're like, you're right. They're thinking on it was probably it's dark because the fight scene happens at night. There's gonna be so much going on, no one's gonna notice, and you cannot help but notice.
There is rule of thumb when making a film, guys. If your stunt double looks nothing like the person, probably don't do a close-up on their face.
Yeah, or, you know, they have a completely different skin tone. Throw a sweater so you can't see the skin tone.
I would have loved it if there had been a line in the movie, clearly ADR'd in, where Gene was just like, "Peter, why are you wearing a sweater?" "Oh, it's getting cold out." And then the fight scene started.
So, but let's get back. Sam's taking the pictures of Kiss and stuff like that, and Melissa shows up because she sees Sam, and she's trying to get in to see him or to talk to him, but he doesn't pay attention to her and just kind of walks on, and she's trying to get his attention and stuff like that, and security's trying to keep her out. Gene calls the shots for Paul Stanley, Star Child, and he just says, "Star Child."
It's his first line!
Yeah, and Star Child uses his Terminator eye magic to, I don't know, just enrapture everybody so that they let her in and let her come and talk to Kiss, because Kiss is going to solve the problems.
It literally was the equivalent of how he could have just been like, "Hey, let her in."
Yeah, because they're the band, right? And the security's there to stop people from getting too close to the band. If the band goes, "Hey, guys, let her in," they can just, "All right, well, let her in." But no, they have to. Gene Simmons, who is the only person with voice modulation in this movie.
Oh my God, yes.
Everybody else has the regular voice. Every time Gene Simmons talks, it sounds like it's going through a voice modulator.
Yeah, I'm thinking he was like, he wanted to sound like the leader and a god.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I've heard he doesn't have much of an ego.
That's true. He's very down to earth.
Very down to earth, and definitely you before me. That's Gene Simmons to a T. That's what I've always heard.
To this day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And so this is one of the first. This is like the second time you get to hear the MGM line when he roars.
I really wish I would have counted it, because it had to be at least 25 times.
Oh, I know. And then that she explains what's going on. She's trying to find Sam, and they tell her that you're here, but Kiss is not the band. Almost like they're not the band you're looking for, and it's almost like it's a real. They're trying to be like some sort of faux spirituality, like he's using like otherworldly powers to determine this stuff. So it's got to sound kind of high and flighty, and it just comes off really bad because she's like, yeah, yeah, and it's and then they cut to the security guards, who Brian James is one of them. The guy, he was a pretty prolific character actor. He was in like Tango and Cash and a lot of a lot of movies in the 80s and 90s. Like he was in 48 Hours and Another 48 Hours. Oh. Yeah, so he's done some stuff. Like when the guy's been, he was in Blade Runner. Okay. You know, yeah. So I mean, he's been in some really good movies, and this, but. You know, it's one of those things where you see guys who are like, I don't know, you could just tell they work because they like to work. Oh, The Fifth Element, that was the big one he was in. He was like the general in The Fifth Element. Okay. One who recruits Bruce Willis.
So, fairly prolific character actor.
Yeah, and he got, this was like one of his first roles and stuff like that as the security guard who gets attacked by the newly minted, freshly cloned Kiss.
Which they do absolutely nothing to differentiate evil and regular Kiss.
No, because when I first watched it, I had to stop for a second and go, why is Gene Simmons suddenly attacking the security guard and wrecking up the joint?
I had the exact same thought.
Yeah. And did you... I nearly lost it when he tore apart the clearly styrofoam Coke stand.
Made out of cardboard or styrofoam. Yeah.
Yeah, he just tears it apart, like he wrecks it, and it floats to the ground like it's like you'd think that they would at least like weighted some of the parts of it so that when it broke apart it fell appropriately, but it just kind of floated in some spots to the ground. And it's like that was a really poorly constructed refreshment stand.
And this is the thing, I bet they only had one of them.
Yeah, that was, it's like, get this in one, guys. You know, like when they blew up that house in one of the James Bond movies, they shot it from a million different angles because we can only do this once, we can only blow up this house once. The same thing on this set when he wrecked the refreshment stand.
It doesn't help that Gene Simmons, his physical performance is like the laziest thing I've ever seen.
It looked like when he was walking and he was supposed to be evil, Gene, he looked like he crapped his pants. It looked like he was walking like he had just pooped his pants, and he was like he had that bow-legged walk and stomping up and like really labored up and down movement with the feet. He's like, I don't want this to spread around too much. I just got to get to the locker room so I can change out and it won't be that big of a mess. I'm not speaking from experience. I'm just saying this is what I saw.
It's almost like I figured that's why he was just mad at the security guards. He was trying to get to the bathroom, and they were standing in his way.
Yeah, and then while he was wrecking the place up, he closed his pants, and that's why he walked that, I'm guessing.
That's why he destroyed the stand. He was like, didn't make it.
After he trashes the stand and everything, they do a real jarring jump to Kiss's mansion.
Yes.
And they're the security guards and the head of security and the cops are all talking out front of how they're not around, they can't find them. And one of them says, oh, maybe they're out back swimming in the pool.
Oh, this scene.
And somebody has the best line, rock and rollers don't bathe.
This pool scene, whoever was the costume designer,
I don't know what was going on there, man. Like, okay, the only thing I could think of is that Kiss were like, we have to be high above them,
right?
To make it seem like we're, bigger than life and we're superior than everybody else in this movie. They set them in lifeguard chairs. They're lifeguard chairs. The lifeguard. If you go to any hotel or community pool that has a lifeguard, these are the kinds of chairs, and they just set them up in them. They're in full makeup in the middle of the day.
Right.
They got their gear on.
Well, that's the thing. Their makeup never comes off.
Never. No,
Never.
you never see them with makeup.
It's basically their faces.
Mm-hmm. And they've got these robes. Like they've got these silver robes that they sit under like cloaks, like they're almost like monks or something like that. Everybody except Jean is there at the beginning of the scene, and they're talking to them. And this is when you start to this is when you really know that it's not Peter Criss doing the voice of Peter Criss.
Right.
Like when he talks, the ADR is super evident, and you would be hard pressed to be not going, oh man, that's that voice from that cartoon.
Oh, and this is if you look carefully, Gene's chair is probably just a tiny bit higher.
Probably. Apparently, when this movie got released internationally, he was the most prominently featured member on the posters, which caused some animosity with the rest of the group.
Which again, totally down to earth guy. Don't expect it.
I don't know why they thought that was his decision or in any sort of way, his sort of doing. But this is one of the first times you hear Ace Frehley's verses. Ack!
I had to pause it, and I laughed for about 5 minutes.
Because it sounds like, have you ever seen the movie Orgasmo with Trey Parker, Matt Stone?
Yeah.
Okay, you know that sound is the Orgasmo Raider makes when it doesn't have any power?
Yes.
That's what his act sounds like.
I hope Trey Parker recycled that and put it in Orgasmo.
That would be great.
This scene also has my favorite line, or
Okay.
I should say series of lines, because I should mention that anytime one member of KISS talks, usually all four of them talk one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm assuming is like, hey, he has a line, I want a line.
I'm guessing that's exactly how that writing process went.
But this is how it goes. Someone says something about Gene Simmons, and one of them jokingly goes, Gene's brother was an only child. Easy, Catman, they mean business. And they got guns.
Yeah.
Golden.
Yep. Lots of good exchange. And this is the second time in this scene, too, you get to see Paul Stanley use his Star Child power.
Which apparently is a cone of silence destroyer.
Yeah. And here's the thing. He's using his power. He's hearing everything that they're saying. Rather than being real low-key about it, keeping it on the DL, getting what they're saying, and then filling everybody in later, he's telling everybody in KISS what the other guys are saying while there are other people around.
Super loud.
Yeah. And
He's basically shouting.
Yeah, out loud.
Yeah.
Shouting out loud.
Hey! Whoa, is that subtext?
it was a callback, that's what it was.
You may have just discovered something in the script.
But it's to the point where any of the entourage or the people who were there with him could go over like, hey guys, keep it down, they can hear what you're saying.
That's right. Right. He's like, oh, I can hear them. Guys, they're gonna take over the park. or he's gonna arrest us after our concert.
They're just concerned about us not showing up for the gig.
The cop is right there.
Yeah.
Looking at them at one point.
Yeah. And then after everything is kind of smoothed over, Melissa shows up.
Yep.
And Paul Stanley's like, hey, Melissa. And she's like, how did you know my name? Well, they've been talking the previous night.
That's right. That was such a weird line.
And then one of them goes, and they do that thing where it's like, the other two guys get a line.
Sorry.
It's like, he's just showing off. Yeah, a little bit of psychic power doesn't help either.
So he's got psychic powers, too.
Or yeah.
So
or cosmic powers or something.
So why did he need the Star Child thing to listen to their conversation when he could have just guessed what they were going to do?
I know.
I feel like that was KISS going, yeah, I should have psychic powers, I should have super listening powers,
It's like when
I want to breathe fire.
It's like when little kids are playing superheroes on the playground. It's like, well, I can fly. Yeah, but you can't shoot me with bullets because I'm surprised Gene didn't go like, well, I have all the powers.
Right.
You know, like pull a total card and like I have all my power is I have all the power, you guys.
I'm surprised Gene just didn't ADR a line in where he just said like, well, all the powers they have, I have them too. I just don't want to use them.
But anyways, this brings us to them meeting with Melissa and her getting her full story about how she's trying to find her boyfriend Sam and everything like that. And they take her into like her mansion, which you should never do. If you ever meet any member of KISS, do not be indoors with any of them because you are probably going to get violated in some way.
By KISS?
So they take them in because it's for they held off on doing terrible things to this poor girl because
right.
It's for TV. They show her their talismans.
Oh my god, the talisman scene.
They look like Chuck E. Cheese ticket prizes. Like if you won enough tickets on Skee-Ball, you could get the Demon Child talisman or like the Catman talisman or something like that. I almost wanted to be a full stop with an After Effect. Collect them all, kids.
Right, that would be a good smash cut to a commercial.
Yeah. This month in your McDonald's Happy Meals.
Which, let's not knock McDonald's Happy Meals because those toys actually look better.
Yeah. They actually to tell the truth, they actually reminded me not of McDonald's Happy Meal toys, but of the Burger King Ninja Turtle toys.
Oh, good lord!
I don't know if they were a thing that you got, but I got a couple of the Ninja Turtle toys when Ninja Turtles were popular, and they were at Burger King, and they were about as high quality as those talismans.
You guys got to see what this looks like to fully appreciate it. It is just fantastic prop work.
Yeah. So so they do another concert, I believe, after this.
Yes, another, and I believe they perform one song at this concert.
Yeah, and then when I'm guessing the concert was over, but it was just like them hanging out with Melissa.
Singing Beth?
Singing Beth.
To Melissa.
And, yeah. Peter Criss is the only time you hear Peter Criss's voice, his real voice, in the entire movie, because they used he did the vocals for that song. And everybody else in KISS looks super put out and bored by the fact that they're doing this.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure I looked at Gene Simmons and he rolled his eyes.
Just use it. We don't have any more film left.
So, yeah, there's... it was just so terrible. I got another note here, and maybe I missed something. There was a section... Oh! When Abner was perfecting his robo-kisses, he's getting Gene Simmons... The flame and everything like that.
When you said robo-kisses at first, sorry, but when you said robo-kisses, I just thought it was like robots kissing each other for a second.
Which is a different kind of sexy movie.
Right.
Altogether. But he makes him like shoot out the flames out the mouth, which he's managed to clone the ability to do that. And then it makes him like punch and grapple. And it looks like Rock'em Sock'em Kiss. I wanted them to, like, when they beat up Robo-Kiss, again, not the robot porn, but the robot kiss. When they beat up Robo-Kiss, I wanted one of their heads to pop off so they could have, and it would have to be Peter Criss, because it would have to be in the voice of Handy Smurf, where he goes, "You knocked his block off!"
Oh, missed opportunity.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, my lord. And... going back to the Beth thing for a second, when they're singing Beth, which it's clearly the recording from the album or the record or whatever, it just like, I think that's the worst ADR for me, because Peter Criss is barely moving his mouth.
Yep. And
it just comes out like crystal clear, instrumentals in full effect, like.
and when Sam is looking for, because while they're singing Beth, doing nothing but hanging out with Melissa, saying Beth, Sam is at their place looking for their talismans.
Right.
Because, and this wasn't super clear, but I think it was the security badge that they gave Beth, I'm calling her Beth, that they gave Melissa, that the Abner gave Melissa had a camera on it. So he could see the talismans and stuff like that and observe what she saw in Kiss's mansion. So he knew that the talismans were what gave Kiss their superpowers.
Wow, I didn't even catch that, so good on you.
So he sends Sam to look for the talismans, and while they're playing Beth to Melissa, he's looking for the talismans and getting into like the biggest fight with Kiss's furniture and books.
He trips over something. Did you notice that?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that was the actor tripping. Oh shit! It was fine.
Just use it.
Use it.
But this is one of the points of the movie where they really asked me to suspend my disbelief and go with this fiction they're putting, because Kiss have books.
Yeah, that's right.
In their mansion.
I dig the superpowers, the breathing fire, but Kiss does not read.
Yeah, they're books. And this is the best part, when they finally finds the talismans. Are they behind like a picture in a safe? Are they in a cubby underneath like the couch? No, they're in the coffee table.
That's right.
And the only thing hiding them from plain sight is the tablecloth draped over the coffee table.
Kiss were never known for their ability to hide
talismans.
Talismans, thank you.
Super secret talismans that give them cosmic powers.
That's right.
Yeah. So he finds them, opens up the box, and he tries to take one. He can't, but the thing causes like a disturbance in the force for Kiss, and
Right.
they're playing Beth again to Melissa, and they go twang, like the guitar is played out of tune, like it's affected their powers so much that it throws off even their natural musical ability. And they all kind of stop for just half a second, like, oh, well, let's finish the song. And they keep playing. They keep playing.
They keep playing Beth to Melissa.
Yeah.
You know what? I bet you they got to this part in the shooting and they were like, okay, well, so we'll do Beth here. Oh, shit, we should have called her Beth.
Meanwhile, they shot half the movie. Well, they probably had the same discussion when they were playing Christine at the first of the movie.
Right. Oh, those are probably like the last two scenes they shot.
Yeah. Well, you're changing your name to Beth. Now it's Christine.
Fuck, we should have called her Christine.
Yeah. And it was at this point when Kiss realized that they have to kind of spring into action to get their talismans back, or to get them back, because they won't have their powers. They do this weird kind of huddle thing, and I don't know what the hell Gene Simmons was doing with his eyes during this take, but it was like, and the man, all joking aside, is not notorious for being a drug user. It's more Ace Frehley and Paul Stanley who were the heavy. Gene Simmons was more of an egomaniac who just would fuck anything with a dress.
Right.
He looks so cracked out during this scene. I don't know if he was like, well, act with your eyes, Gene, and he just like darts them around like a ton as he's talking.
I feel like Gene did all his own directing.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't doubt that at the least.
Gene, in this scene, I want you to do this. Thanks, Gene.
And one of the best things about the scenes leading up to getting the bad guy getting the talisman, Abner getting the talisman, he's just now learned about the talismans just a short while ago. Doesn't know where they're from or really what they're capable of, but in no time flat designs a gun that can be used to disarm the cosmic force field that prevents people from taking the talismans from Kiss.
Right. He is a very smart scientist.
Yep.
Now, is this the moment where we begin the fight with
Yes.
Kiss against the midget wolf things?
Yes, the Chewbacca looking things.
Right.
Yeah.
Which,
And
you mentioned
because they
Star
jumped the
Wars.
fence.
I was going to say, though, you mentioned Star Wars earlier and Chewbacca. I heard that this was pitched as Star Wars meets A Hard Day's Night
Oh my god.
to Kiss. That's how it was pitched as a movie.
On Angel Dust, maybe.
So the Chewbacca things make more sense if you think about it like
Oh,
that.
and the glowing swords, too.
Right.
Because there is a point during the fight that's coming up where they have to fight samurai robots.
I think they're robots?
And they could be people.
I wouldn't be surprised if this movie was trying to tell us that this scientist has some connections in Japan. And managed to get these guys
but
to
then
log over.
at some point, they get their samurai swords, but at first they're glowing like lightsabers.
Correct.
Yeah. And this whole thing is the start of like the slowest of slow-mo fights.
Oh my god. These fight scenes are the antithesis of fight scenes.
I have a feeling that when the stuff that they have was the rehearsals, where they're like, go 50%, just so we can get the moves in so everyone knows where their spots are. They shot them at 50% and then slowed them down even more from there.
Especially Gene. Did you notice Gene's body movements? He barely moves.
He's super disinterested the entire time. Like he does not care. He's just standing around, and then every once in a while he'll swing a hand, and which is meant to look like it connects.
Right.
But doesn't sort of really.
He gets a couple of hip tosses in, I think.
Yeah. And this is the scene. This fight scene is where you see the African American gentleman who is Peter Criss' stunt double.
That's right. And wait, is it Peter Criss or Ace Frehley?
It's Peter. It's Peter Criss.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Peter Criss.
Right.
Because he's the one. He had you could tell because he was wearing this sleeveless vest.
Right. And
Either that, it was just super dark.
This scene with the midget wolves, I guess Chewbacca's, whatever. It takes on a whole new level of creep because there is some swanky 70s porno music playing in the background.
Oh yeah, and another time when the music doesn't really match up with the gimmick of the people that are supposed to be featured heavily in this movie.
At all.
Very, like you said, very porno, very Rockford Files.
Yeah.
Type, real typical Stephen J. Canal 70s television cop show.
Rockford Files was a successful show. They used this music, therefore, ipso facto,
success. Yep. Through the transitive property of mathematics,
we are now successful. And then Gene said, sure, whatever.
Yep. And then, after the initial fight with the werewolf guys, that's when that's what the stuff with the other robots, the samurai guys show up and stuff like that. And, the animatronics professor or doctor or scientist, he's swirling around in his moving console and says, "This may be more to your speed, Kiss. Let the dance begin." And then they start fighting the robot samurai.
Which, that line makes no sense to me because he says, "This may be more to your liking." I mean, I'm not the biggest Kiss fan. I mean, I like them. I don't have a huge knowledge of their history, but is there something in their history? Their history. I apologize, Kiss Army. But is there something in their history that suggests that they would have a predilection for samurai?
I don't know. No. I'm going to go on a limb and say no. I'm not in the Kiss Army myself, but I'm going to say no.
Somebody prove us wrong. Somebody tell me that Kiss has a predilection or history of something to do with samurai.
Yeah, they're big into let us know if they're big into the Shogun culture.
Also, there's I think the greatest commercial cue ever around this time, because I think it's, let me just see here. What member of Kiss was it? I believe it's Peter Criss, and he literally says, "Hey, something's wrong," and that's it. Commercial. They walk in. That's when they walk into the sadomasochism temple, I believe.
Oh, into the dungeon.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So,
So they go. So eventually they fight the goons, and they get sucked into the tubes, right?
Yep. Oh, and they stand still for it.
Right.
Did you notice that? Like the tubes are they're coming down. Everyone kind of stops.
No struggle at all.
No struggle. They look up. The tubes continue to come down. They wait, and then they get sucked up into them.
Right. And then they're in the electrified prison, and I don't remember which Kiss member it is, but he tries at least 5 times just to walk out.
Oh yeah.
He's like, they're like the worst example. They're like Pavlov's dogs, but like they didn't learn. You know what I mean?
They must have had.
Not Pavlov's dogs. The one with the mouse and the. You know what I'm talking about.
No, flowers for Algernon.
There was an experiment where this mouse, like, every time he grabbed the cheese, it would like electrocute him or something.
So you keep going for the cheese.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it reminded me of.
Well, I think it's funny because they must have had bars or something standing in there, and they drew the laser effect over top of it because there's no way that he could have acted that. But the special effects in the After Effect, they're just... man, it looks... so drawn on, like everything, all the stuff. And I don't know, the laser gun that the professor uses, why does it have waves? Like, why is it wavy?
Oh, right. I
It's like the only wave, like, it knows how to swirl up and down. But all the other laser effects are straight lines. Like, Star Child's Terminator Eye is straight lines. And the laser beams, or the laser bars, they're straight up and down. It's like, well, you know what? We've used the straight up and down. Let's do something different. Let's make the laser swirly, even though there's no real reason for it to be swirly.
It's Star Wars with about 1/8 of the budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can get on board with that. Yep.
And this is might be generous.
This is the part where Abner has his big monologue about how Kiss will be they're in prison now. The next concert they'll be opening for Armageddon.
Right.
To which Peter Criss goes, "No way, man, we don't open for anybody. Plus, Armageddon's a really lame band."
And like I said, I really hope that was a band at the time. That Gene Simmons just wanted to crush.
They ain't going anywhere. It's Armageddon. They'll never hear of them.
Remember when they opened for us and they played for 10 minutes too long? Screw Armageddon. Write the line, Mr. Saperstein. I'm assuming that's the screenwriter.
I guess so. And
that's assuming this had a screenwriter.
Well, they had at least 2 of them follow wherever they follow Paul Stanley around.
That's right.
Act.
That is usually what he says when he's interviewed.
And then, so Melissa is still trying to unfurl this mystery again.
Melissa has done shit all,
but she is the only. She's actually trying to get solve the mystery and figure stuff out. She is the Velma of this situation, but gets it's overshadowed by a Kiss because they're Kiss.
Right. I'd say Kiss accomplishes even less
Mm-hmm.
than Melissa, than Not Beth. Let's call
and then Melissa, not Beth.
Not Beth.
Then she encounters Robo-Sneed.
Oh my god! And also, as another thing, they say Sneed about 18 times in this movie.
He's the head of security, and he's one of the few people who gets constantly called by name, except for Sam. Sam's the only person who gets his name called more than Sneed, I think.
And like Melissa, I heard her name once, maybe like an hour in.
Yeah. And the only reason why it stuck with me is because of that whole exchange with Kiss. And she was like, "How did you know my name?"
Exactly. We just had a conversation 20 minutes ago.
And this whole thing leads us to the final concert of the movie.
Oh, the Evil Kiss concert.
Where the Robo Kiss, again, the band, not the robot porno,
right?
Take the stage to sing "Rip and Destroy." Was that the name of the song?
Is that a real Kiss song?
I don't know. I don't know my history all that well.
Okay, because if it's a real Kiss song, why are they booing?
Well, that was it. And this is my thought on it, is because at first when they came out and they started playing, And I was like, oh, he just designed these robots, but now they're, such virtuosos with music that they can play Kiss's entire back catalog.
Well, he does have the talismans, remember?
I suppose, yeah, that could be part of it. But then the crowd turns on Kiss like really hard.
Vicious.
So I'm like, I guess they aren't playing it well. I couldn't tell.
Well, I thought they
were playing fine, but apparently the Kiss Army knew.
The Kiss Army, they heard that C chord and that was not the same.
Yeah, and they knew them, and the whole time this is happening, they're booing. Kiss puts together that somehow getting the crowd to turn on Kiss is going to cause a riot, which will, this is the professor's evil plan. Like his machinations for evil culminate in causing a riot in California, which not a hard thing to do.
No, it's happened a couple times.
It's happened a few times, and for smaller things than a Kiss concert. Okay, so I think he was kind of shooting low on the old goal scale for what you could do with your army of animatronics, but yeah, trying to cause a riot, and that was it. So Kiss, they're supposed to be powerless at this point, right? Because they've had their talismans taken from each other.
Right.
Right. They band their minds together. Again, I can't see Kiss ever banding their minds together, but they band their minds together and use telekinesis.
This is the biggest Star Wars scene, I think.
Yeah, they use the Force.
It's just straight up they use the Force.
Yeah, to get the talismans, the carrying case that has the talismans to them in their prison, so they can recharge them, and they'll have their powers back.
Right.
Which they don't go into any great detail about how they recharge them. Is it just because they're back into Kiss's proximity?
Yeah, sure, we'll go with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, they get the talismans, and that's just like, they're good now.
They got them now, and now they're gonna fight Robo-Kiss.
Also, why did Abner leave the talismans right there, where they could have gotten them? Why wouldn't he just at least take them into another room?
I think this is a question that's on a long list of questions that could be asked for this movie that really just shouldn't be asked if you want to just get through it. Because I think that a lot of the stuff was, they might have had a continuity guy on set at one point who would be like, well, why would he do that? And they just got fed up with him asking questions, and Gene had him fired.
Right, or roared at him like the MGM lion.
Yeah. So, but this leads to the fight with, good Kiss versus bad Kiss. Which, again, sounds wicked dirty, but it's not.
And you can't tell the difference between who's who at all.
Oh, no.
The entire time.
Not obvious whatsoever. And again, such slow fighting. My daughter, when we were watching this, laughed so hard because of all the slow motion fights. And she just at one point she just looks at me and she's laughing. I'm like, what are you laughing? Why is it so funny? Slow motion. I nearly fell off the couch laughing.
I think this movie, the fight scenes are like the worst parts.
Yeah.
It's like the most boring parts are the parts that should be the most exciting.
And they tried to make them look like super stylized and choreographed and stuff like that, and it came off as, they got a couple of good jumps in, but they slowed it down to pad it out so much that it's like you could see so much that it was so choreographed because they slowed it down so much. And we're not talking like Bruce Lee where they're fighting so fast that they have to do it in slow mo so you can catch it.
Yeah.
No, it's stunt coordinators fighting other stunt coordinators, and again, I think like you said, they shot it at 50 and then slowed it down another 50.
Well, Gene could have had the choreographer and the stunt coordinators fired too.
And then remember I said earlier when they fought robots at the end, I wanted them to be like, you knocked his block off. Like they just vanished.
Right.
The evil robot Kiss
They
band,
just disappear.
They just disappear.
Like robots do.
Yeah, and then they're like, all right, you guys ready for real Kiss?
And
then they start rocking out.
The audience immediately knows which one is Kiss.
Yep. And to be fair, if you're in the audience, Kiss has always been known for being such a gigantically theatrical band that you could be like, oh yeah, this was all part of the show. Okay, let's rock on. Play
Right.
Shout It Out Loud or play Rock and Roll All Night. And they get on. At some point, there's a break or an intermission.
Yes!
And then they go back to Abner's basement or dungeon or lab or whatever, and the guy's dead.
How did he die?
I don't know, but Melissa, not Beth, is there, and she's pleading with him to change Sam back, and he's not responding, and you don't see that he's dead. But they have this real solemn, remorseful exchange with Paul effing Stanley, where they're like, he's like, he wasn't evil, he was just a genius.
He was misguided.
He was misguided or misdirected or something like that. And then they finally do a pan around to see that his hair is turned like Einstein white and wild, and he's dead. He's soulless and dead, like he's just a husk of a man. And she's torn up because she doesn't know, like, how are we gonna get Sam back to how he was, and how are we gonna fix him? And then someone just reaches in, yoink.
It just takes
Takes it off.
Literally, just takes the little tiny electrode off his neck. No struggle, just boonk, and he's back.
Yeah, no adverse effects. He doesn't collapse. He doesn't, they don't have to rush him to the hospital. They just pluck it off. He kind of shakes it off, and then he's fine.
Yeah.
And this is where you get your final act.
Right. One more for the road. So we don't know how Abner died at all.
No.
He's just dead.
Yeah.
That is the strangest thing. Something
I must have missed it. I don't know, but to me, they got their stuff back, and I don't know. Maybe he was connected with Evil Kiss. Or
they
something.
had to cut something. Something had to have been cut.
Yeah. But so then you got a dead guy in the basement. Let's go back to the concert. They go and they play some more, and at this point, I got to point this out because I know the copy that I have is the television one, because it was the one released by Worldwide Video or Good Time Video or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If this was the version that was shown on television, there were nipples on NBC in the 70s that night.
What?
Yeah, not like bare-chested, but they're panning around the crowd, and the people are partying and shouting out loud and rock and rolling it all night. And there's this girl who's there with a white tank top, and you can clearly see through it.
Yes, I know what you're talking about now.
And I have a pretty poor VHS copy of this, and I could tell. So I could only imagine if people who were watching it for the first time it was aired on NBC that night, there were nipples on NBC that night.
It looks like another one got pulled over on old Freddie Silverman.
Yep.
The scene also had another one of my favorite lines. I don't remember which member of Kiss says this, but his little line about Abner after he died is, he created Kiss to destroy Kiss, and he lost.
Yes.
just in case you're not clear, that's what he just did in the movie, the 90-minute movie you just watched.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if that was his end game, was just to destroy Kiss.
Right.
Because it would seem to me, if he were smart, he would just let time do it for him.
Yes, just let time ravage their bodies.
Yeah, which it has.
Yeah. Also, so the film ends with this concert, and the credits. Did you notice the approximately 5 to 10 credits that were just people working for Kiss?
Oh yeah.
production assistant for
because-
Chris, Chris, sure,
And they used like the font that the band uses.
right.
Yeah.
This is the
No, I totally noticed that.
this is like the ultimate vanity project that the person making it couldn't have hated more.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, with this movie, apparently for the longest time, you could not mention it in front of anybody who was in Kiss.
Oh, okay.
Like if you were like a roadie or something, or decided you wanted to, or you were interviewing Gene or Paul, and you wanted to bust some chops, and you mentioned this movie, that was it. You were a roadie or whatever, you got fired. If you were an interviewer, they'd probably just shut the thing down and walk off or something like that. It was so infamously bad, and they knew how bad it was that they just wanted to not talk about it, and they felt that if they didn't talk about it, no one would be talking about it. It would just kind of slip away, rather than gain the infamy that it has gained.
I think it's difficult to even. It was difficult to find anything like even modern that they've like from the band that they've talked about it. Like they haven't talked about it a whole lot even to this day, have they?
No. In fact, this movie did get something of a re-release on a box set a few years ago. But again, it was really only to cash in. There's no special features or anything like that because they don't want to talk about it or anything. And
a commentary by Kiss would be glorious.
I can imagine. I didn't choose that. They said I wasn't going to be there. I would have been there.
You just hear Gene Simmons the whole time.
No, he just keep playing the MGM roar over and over again.
Right. The MGM Lion does the commentary.
They've softened their stance in the regard that they don't talk about it. They don't look upon it fondly. Right. And they won't talk about it at length, but it's not as drastic as it was, say, like in the 80s or something. That would have been, but it is to Kiss, I guess, what the Star Wars Holiday Special is to George Lucas.
I'm not getting that. I thought he was awfully proud of that movie.
If they could expunge completely every copy and erase the memory of this ever happening in one fell swoop, they would.
I think the Star Wars Holiday Special and Howard the Duck were his greatest accomplishments.
God. Oh, my wife and I watched that one, Howard the Duck. We watched that a few years ago when it was on Netflix here, and we were like, man, I remember that movie. Oh, I love that movie when I was a kid. It was so good. Yeah, I love that movie when I was a kid, too. We watched it, and we were like, oh, my God, this was awful. What the hell was wrong with us? It's definitely one of those movies that does not hold up as you age.
Okay, so something I want to... So we come to the end of the movie. It's a piece of shit, guys. It's really bad.
It's crap, and if you do want to, watch it, may God have mercy on your soul.
And good
not
luck.
Getting it, good, that too. Yeah, it's notoriously hard to find if you want like a legitimate copy. I found mine at like a yard sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to watch it, you either got to kind of part around like that, get that unauthorized or authorized box set that was released a few years ago with it, or pay upwards of $60 for a VHS copy on eBay.
And it is not worth that money.
No. Unless you're a Kiss completionist, it's not something that you're going to want to shell out the cash for because it's not worth that.
Right. Okay, so one thing I wanted to try here, just because of the type of movie this is, I want to ask you, if this movie, pretty much the exact same movie, the same style, was remade today with any current rock band, who would you want to see in the movie?
Like, see it be good, or just see it be this bad so they got their comeuppance?
Let's say comeuppance.
Oh, Nickelback. I would want to see Nickelback get absolutely embarrassed and shamed
with superpowers.
With this movie, by this movie. Yeah, I would love to see
just
that.
Just the exact same thing, but with Nickelback.
Yep.
I want the makeup too. I want them to have the Kiss makeup.
Well-
They can play Kiss.
If they were to do a movie like this with Nickelback, not a shot-for-shot remake, but if they could do a movie with Nickelback, I would say do The Wizard of Oz, and that way Chad Kroeger could be the Cowardly Lion.
I
With
thought
that-
you were going to say Dorothy.
Big hair. Well, he's got to have it's got to be long hair, Chad Kroeger.
Right, and just to make it even weirder, let's make Avril Lavigne Dorothy.
Oh God, you know what? I want to see it so they get their career comeuppance, but I would not watch that. I hate both of them with the fire of 1,000 suns.
Oh my God. All right. Well, you got any final thoughts on this gem?
Oh, Gem is definitely overstating it.
I mean gem as in like the movie Gem that got released last year.
Oh, I actually would say that this is on par. The kind of thing, like, and it's funny too because it does definitely has because that was a cartoon that was made into a live action movie. This movie could have been a cartoon for sure. You know, if I were to say, you know, if I was to rate this on a scale of crap to good, I would put this at just below Josie and the Pussycats, right above Gem and the Holograms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, guys, this is like it's one of those movies that's entertaining when it's bad in a way, but there are long moments of just blah.
Well, just to give you an idea of you know what this movie will do to you. After I watched this movie again, so I could get my notes all squared away and stuff like that. After it was all said and done, I proceeded to have 2 drinks. I went and poured like a glass of gin and juice because I roll like Snoop Dogg,
Of course.
and then did exactly the same thing again because I could not get it out of my head. I had to have 2 of them.
Don't watch this movie more than once. You may lapse into alcoholism.
Yeah, you'll definitely need something to take the edge off when it's all said and done.
And I want to. Okay, so I want to talk about. Wow, words are an issue after talking about this film. Our next film, in 2 weeks' time, will be the classic cop comedy. I guess.
It was supposed to be like, yeah, buddy cop comedy.
Hollywood Homicide, starring Harrison Ford and his best friend in the world, Josh Hartnett. And we'll be covering that in 2 weeks' time. But yeah, this was fun. This is the first episode. This is probably really long. This is our first one, but...
And I've got to ask, what were they thinking?